In this video, you'll take the fear out of finance. Money can be a really terrifying point when you're a broke 20-year-old recently out of school or a 30-something simply attempting to get by in a large, costly city. Taking care of your tabs consistently is fine, so how in the world would you find additional money for a just-in-case account, not to mention savings sufficiently huge to see you through retirement? So, like all kinds of big trials in life, the journey from investing zero to investing hero begins with only one step. This can be as little as naturally saving $10 from your check each month or moving your banking on the web to profit by a superior interest rate. In these chapters, we'll follow the individual budget guide, Erin Lowry, as she shows how even the most broke millennial can find monetary achievement. You'll likewise learn instructions to get Freudian about why planning isn't the equivalent for everybody, and the amount you need to put something aside for crises. Numerous people in their 20s and mid-30s discover money undesirable, bewildering, and disturbing, and it's holding them down. Erin, the author, and her companion Lizzie met over espresso. In the same way, as other recent college grads attracted to New York, Lizzie went to the Big Apple to seek an imaginative job. In any case, she'd wound up caught in exhausting corporate work. Erin asked Lizzie for what reason she didn't simply stop. All things considered, she was 23, obligation-free, and single. Wasn't this the ideal chance to work bad waitressing or nannying occupations while she sought after her actual calling? I don't have a clue, Lizzie answered. Money really worries me. She never saw her financial balance and in every case just trusted there was sufficient money to make it to the furthest limit of the month. Leaving her place of employment would mean dealing with her money, which she'd never figured out how to do. The main message in this chapter is, many people in their 20s and mid-30s discover money undesirable, bewildering, and disturbing, and it's keeping them down. Lizzie was a keen young lady who came from a well-off family. However, on the off chance that a wise expert like her couldn't deal with her money, how were others her age adapting? It's an inquiry Erin couldn't resist posting to herself. Also, it wasn't well before she understood that Lizzie's experience is quite regular among recent college grads. Understanding your accounts is frequently the distinction between the existence of satisfaction and the existence of disappointment. If you don't deal with your money appropriately, you could wind up attempting to pay the least, let alone able to manage the cost of the children or pets you truly need. It may even mean avoiding each energizing experience on your list, or probably spending lavishly on those encounters presently, just to wind up living from check to check for the remainder of your life. Indeed, understanding your accounts is a genuine business. It's no big surprise the uneasiness about money can be devastating. All in all, how would you break out of this nervousness trap, or, even better, stay away from it completely? As we'll find in these chapters, it's truly not that hard when you are skilled. Indeed, improving your relationship with money doesn't need complex recipes. Everything necessary is a progression of little advances that, together, amount to one major change. Changing your relationship with money starts with finding covered hindrances. The money of the rich isn't advanced science. Sticking to a financial plan and keeping it for later is, all things considered, a beautiful direct thought. But why is it so difficult to do? Indeed, similarly as eat less and practice more is common sense advice, this doesn't naturally prompt great choices with regards to being sound. That is because compulsive conduct isn't rational. There's quite often an all the more profoundly established issue included. The best way to change is to uncover the reasons why you indulge. The main message in this chapter is, changing your relationship with money starts with finding covered hindrances. Your relationship with money began a very long time before you took out your understudy loan or got a visa. In this way, to change your urgent conduct, you need to return to your adolescence, when the examples keeping you down were first settled. Everything started to come to fruition when you understood how your parents identified with money. Possibly they were open about the family's accounts, or maybe they regarded money as a no-no and discussed it in quiet tones. Possibly you were food shaky, or maybe you were humiliated by your family's riches. Whatever your youth resembled, there's a decent possibility you can follow your present hang-ups with money back to these developmental encounters. Finding these detours is the initial step headed for independence from the rat race. To kick you off on the excursion, answer the accompanying inquiries as genuinely as could be expected. You'll have to record these as you'll be thinking back over your answers. What's your first memory of money, and how does that memory cause you to feel? How could you get the money you spent growing up? Did you convey papers, for instance, or did you have to suffer? What sorts of things did you purchase? How did your parents talk about money? What are your monetary concerns today? Survey your answers and consider what they say about your money mindset. Do you stress over money running out, or everlastingly being underwater? Provided that this is true, your outlook is presumably one of dread. In case you're actually going through money as you did as a child, you might be caught in a pattern of defenselessness. Clearness about these issues will make the noteworthy strides in the accompanying chapters a lot simpler to execute. There are 2 essential ways to deal with planning: the money diet and following every single penny. There's a nobody-size-fits-all answer for assuming responsibility for your money. As we've seen, various people have various mentalities and hang-ups, and these can be followed back to their extraordinary youth encounters. It's no big surprise, at that point, that one strategy will suit a few people in a way that is better than others. Take planning for instance. How you approach arranging your month-to-month spend relies upon what you desire to accomplish. The main message in this chapter is, there are 2 essential ways to deal with planning: the money diet and following every single penny. How about we start with the money diet? As the name proposes, this strategy implies you'll be exchanging whatever number of your monetary exchanges as would be prudent from plastic to money. For what reason would you pick this outdated methodology in the computerized age? Indeed, there are 2 valid justifications. To start with, research shows that you spend less when you pay with notes and coins as opposed to swiping a card. Second, it's a ton less expensive. At the point when you pay money, you don't need to stress over Visa charges, premium installments, or that feared month-to-month bill. Making the progress to money just can be interesting, yet it doesn't need to be hard. Start by partitioning your month-to-month financial plan into the week-after-week portions. This will help you monitor your costs, and means you don't need to stuff a month of money into your work area cabinet. It's likewise a smart thought to have a cradle of, say, $100, simply on the off chance that you get dinged by a bill you disregarded partially as the month progressed. Another planning strategy is the track each penny framework. The thought here is to record each exchange in a bookkeeping page, with segments for the date, the thing bought, and the complete expense, down to the absolute last penny. It may sound outrageous, yet it's an extraordinary alternative in case you're the sort of individual who ponders where in the world all your money went toward the month's end. Recording your costs like this permits you to discover recently concealed examples. This, therefore, implies you can divert your money better. The creator's companion, for instance, found that she was spending near $100 on filtered water from Starbucks consistently. So she burned through $10 on refillable water containing all things being equal and liberated an astounding $90 every month for different things. Practical planning rates can help you meet your drawn-out monetary objectives while keeping steady over your month-to-month bills. As a rule, your money pays for one of 3 things: fixed costs like lease, monetary objectives like putting something aside for a house, and adaptable going through everyday living. In an ideal world, you'd give 50% of your net gain to the main classification, 20% to the second, and 30% to the third. In case you're a millennial living in a significant city, this may sound pretty unreasonable. Your lease alone presumably asserts a large portion of your compensation, even before you consider utilities, advance reimbursements, or tram tickets. That doesn't imply that planning by rates isn't helpful. It simply implies you need to work your route gradually toward the ideal. The main message in this chapter is, realistic planning rates can help you meet your drawn-out monetary objectives while keeping steady over your month-to-month bills. Consider these ideal rates an objective for when you're procuring enough for them to be sensible. For the time being, you can change them to your one-of-a-kind circumstance and re-examine them as things change. Regardless of what your conditions are, your rates ought to be sensible. As such, you shouldn't assign 40% of your spending plan to fixed expenses, 55% to adaptable spending, and just 5% to long-haul monetary objectives. Take the accompanying anecdotal model. Dwight lives in New York City and acquires $45,000 per year. After assessments and commitments to his retirement store, he's left with $31,800, or $2,650 per month. Dwight needs $1,350 to cover the lease, service bills, and transportation costs. Toss in another $250 per month for educational loan reimbursements, and Dwight burns through $1,600, or around 60% of his overall gain, on fixed expenses. That leaves simply more than $1,000. In a perfect world, Dwight ought to put 20% of his pay toward his monetary objectives, which would mean saving $500 per month. Yet, that wouldn't leave him with enough to get by in a costly city like New York. Dwight's answer: he saves $200 every month, which leaves $850, or 30% of his total compensation, for things like food. This is a brief fix. At the point when he gets his next raise, Dwight can keep his fixed costs and adaptable spending at their present levels and set aside the additional cash for his monetary objectives. This will change his rates and better adjust them to the ideal. You can improve loan costs on your investment funds if you change to an online bank. How banks show your record balance recommends that the money is simply staying there, quietly sitting tight for you to spend it. This bodes well. It's your money, all things considered. What another place would it be yet in your record? Actually, the money you store in your record is utilized to make advances to different clients, and this permits banks to make gigantic benefits. Consequently, the bank offers you a premium as a yearly rate yield or APY. Regularly, this may be as low as 0.01%, which means you get 1 penny for each year for each $100 in your record. At the point when the bank credits money, however, it charges nearer to $3 for every $100 it loans. That is a major contrast, and it's about time that you began improving the arrangement. The main message in this chapter is, you can improve the loan fee on your reserve funds on the off chance that you change to an online bank. Odds are, you didn't pick your bank dependent on the APY. All things being equal, it was likely about accommodation. Possibly your folks utilized a similar bank, or perhaps you just picked one near your home. Yet, APY ought to be a deal breaker. If you keep $2,000 in a record with a minuscule APY, you're taking a gander at the arrival of only 20 pennies toward the year's end. In many urban communities, that doesn't get both of you minutes of drying time in a laundromat. A similar measure of money in a record with an APY of 1%, conversely, yields $20. Truly, that is not actually a fortune, but rather it unquestionably piles up significantly quicker than 20 pennies. Things being what they are, the place where do you discover a bank offering that sort of APY? In a word, on the web. Web-just banks generally offer much preferable APYs over their physical rivals since they're less expensive to work with. They don't need to purchase land, build branch workplaces, or settle local charges. This implies they can pass these investment funds on to clients as better loan fees. To discover the bank that is appropriate for you, simply Google Best Premium Investment Account. Before exchanging, nonetheless, ensure you set out to find out about the bank's credit and what different clients need to say about its administrations. The exact opposite thing you need to do is leave an awful bank for a far more atrocious one. Visas are an extraordinary monetary apparatus as long as you clear your obligations consistently. Charge cards are a simple method to blow through your money. In addition to the fact that you lose track of what you're spending, yet you additionally face a heap of bills with enormous interest installments toward the finish of consistency. That is a very valid justification to stay away from charge cards out and out, correct? Not exactly. While the money no one but the approach can assist you with understanding your accounts and extra you additional bills, utilizing a charge card helps construct your FICO assessment, which will prove to be useful on the off chance that you need to acquire money to, say, purchase a house one day. The main message in this chapter is, credit cards are an extraordinary monetary device as long as you clear your obligations consistently. The most ideal approach to profit by visas without presenting yourself to the dangers is to adhere to one straightforward principle: never charge beyond what you can bear to cover off and ensure you pay the full equilibrium every month. In principle, a visa is somewhat similar to a 1-month advance. The MasterCard organization gives you a piece of plastic that you can use to make buys up to a concurred month as far as possible. You purchase what you need and, toward the month's end, the MasterCard organization sends you a bill. Yet, the charge you get contains 2 numbers. The primary number discloses to you the aggregate sum that you owe. The subsequent number is the base due sum. This is the littlest sum you can pay without defaulting, and it implies that the remainder of your obligation turns over into the following month. Now, you have 2 options. Pay the aggregate sum and you're all square. The visa organization can't charge you on the off chance that you don't owe anything. Pay the base due sum, then again, and they accuse you of interest. This can be 20% every year or higher, and regularly accompanies extraordinary statements that permit the charge card organization to expand the rates much further if you miss an installment. This is an astutely planned snare, and it draws a huge number of MasterCard clients into spending beyond what they can bear. The outcome: a demolished financial assessment and spiraling obligations become more earnest to pay as time passes. Setting aside cash keeps you from falling into an obligation trap. What's the absolute best change you can make with regards to your monetary conduct? Pose an individual accounting master that check, and you'll probably hear these words: pay yourself first. The expression implies that the principal thing you ought to do with your check is place a lump of it into investment funds, instead of standing by until the month's end to check whether there's anything left. Presently, in case you're a safely utilized, mid-vocation 40-something, this isn't a lot to check. However, in case you're a destitute millennial who feels fortunate just to earn back the original investment, paying yourself initially is really hard. In any case, there's one convincing explanation you ought to get done any case. The main message in this chapter is, saving money keeps you from falling into an obligation trap. Life is unusual, no one can really tell what may occur straight away. This is the reason it's so critical to insure yourself against the most noticeably awful, which is actually the thing you're doing by setting aside cash. At the point when you hit a dash of misfortune, and all that starts separating, you have two choices. You can either dunk into your reserve funds to take care of for that startling tab, or you can utilize a MasterCard. The principal choice is excruciating. Nobody truly needs to utilize their savings, all things considered. In any case, the subsequent choice is a lot more awful. Maximizing your MasterCard to cover a crisis implies you'll be paying interest on obligations instead of putting something aside for what's to come. This leaves you considerably more uncovered the following time something turns out badly. Things being what they are, how would you pay yourself first to maintain a strategic distance from this obligation trap? The least demanding path is to begin little. Avoid one $10, make a mixed drink or a few $5 espresso checks, and put that money into a bank account. It is anything but a great deal, however, that is somewhat the point. On the off chance that you adjust to little and simple changes, the new propensity will stick. Whenever you've figured out how to live with $10 fewer every month, you can begin rolling out greater improvements. Raise the sum you save to $20, $50, or even $100. You can make this cycle considerably easier by addressing your HR office and having your organization wire this money into your bank account every payday. If that is impossible, have your bank set up a programmed move. That way, you don't need to consider the big picture by any stretch of the imagination. Your present monetary circumstance directs the size of your secret stash. It doesn't make a difference if it's in loan, customer obligation, or a blend of the two. When you're paying off debtors, you're practically sure to get hit by a startling bill at some point. Also, in case you're ineffectively ready for one monetary emergency, you'll be significantly more presented to the following one. That is the reason it's so imperative to have a backup stash to own you to the following check. It implies you can stay away from charge card obligation and go right back to saving when things get once more. What amount would it be a good idea for you to save to beat misfortune? All things considered, the short answer is it depends. The main message in this chapter is, your present monetary circumstance directs the size of your rainy day account. Exemplary monetary shrewdness expresses that your backup stash should cover a half year of everyday costs. In case you're an obligation-troubled, underemployed millennial, in any case, that may be out of your compass. All things considered, focus on at least $1,000 to keep you above water when necessary, remembering that this is for one individual. If others or pets depend on you, up this by at any rate $500 per subordinate. In case your sans obligation or your obligation is sensible, conversely, you ought to have the option to follow up on the exhortation and save enough to cover a half year of essential everyday costs. Simply include your month-to-month spend on basics like lease, bills, and goods and duplicate this by 6, that is your objective. Lastly, you'll need to save enough to cover 9 months of everyday costs. In addition to the fact that everything is more costly when you're your own chief, but on the other hand, you're working with pay that changes each month. That is upsetting enough under the most favorable circumstances, so it bodes well to give your crisis investment fund some additional cushioning. Preferably, your backup stash ought to be money in a ledger with an APY of at any rate 1%, not tied up in ventures or stocks. That is because having a backup stash doesn't simply give you a monetary pad, it additionally gives you significant serenity. The exact opposite thing you need is to be going around offering stocks to get to your money when you're worried about different things. What's more, the writing is on the wall, a progression of basic deceives that, together, will assist you with understanding your money and change your monetary life. Final summary. The main message in these chapters. Heaps of 20 to 30-year-olds discover money distressing, and that is keeping them down. If you don't have an idea about your funds, you're probably not going to be putting something aside for the future, and that implies you're going straight into the obligation trap. In any case, you don't need to live check to check. Figure out how to spend a plan by rates and utilize your credit card the correct way, and you'll be looking incredible so far. Toss in internet banking and a secret stash to see you through difficult situations, and you'll be well en route to independence from the rat race. This is what you can implement starting today. Go to bat for yourself in abnormal money circumstances. Picture the scene. You've consented to eat out with companions, yet you're on a severe spending plan. So you request cautiously, picking the least expensive thing on the menu and restricting yourself to only one beverage. Others aren't as economical, however. Your companions request one beverage after another, while starters show up out of the blue. You know how these ends, right? An equal part charge implies you need to hack up $80 for fare tacos and lemonade. All things considered, no, it doesn't need to end that way. Truth be told, you have two choices now. Persevere regardless of whether it implies being known as a penny pincher, or resolve things somewhat more strategically by offering to cut up the charge yourself. You'll before long find that people are glad to offload the exhausting undertaking of parting an enormous gatherings bill to an assigned bookkeeper. You like what you hear? Check out other personal development or business books. This video was made possible by your support. It takes a very long time to make one of our videos, so thanks to your contributions to Patreon and watching our videos. We are slowly able to do more and more of them. If you want to help us out, check out the Patreon page. If you like the contents of this video, check out other books in the description and suggest what book we should cover next.